Hello, everybody. This is Bobby. Welcome back to Your Father's Story. Bought this book. Was going to write in this book. Did not write in this book. Now make videos about this book. So this is episode 7, I believe it is. And we're just going to dive into this book. I'm just reading the back of it now. We're going to choose some questions from this book, and we are going to answer them for my boys and anybody else who may want to listen. So let's just have a dive in, shall we? Who was your closest friend, and were they your best friend? Are you still in touch with them? Well, this is a complicated question because I have had many close friends and many best friends over the years. And I generally lose contact with them because I am terrible at keeping contact with people. And everyone knows I hate talking on the phone. Yeah, so that's difficult for me. But over time, I generally tend to lose contact with people. My first best friend was a kid named Derek. And we were best friends for a long time, even though we fought a lot. We got in lots of fights when I was a kid. I shouldn't say lots, that's probably exaggerating, but occasionally we got into fights. We were still best friends for quite a while until he moved away, and then, we lost contact. I had a friend named Jimmy who... we were best friends too, I guess, for a little while, but he was the kid that everybody picked on, and I'm not really proud to say I was one of them too. And I was also one of the kids that got picked on, so it was like a vicious circle in my friend group. So yeah, I had a couple best friends when I was a lot younger. In my teenage years, my best friend was a kid named Craig. We were best friends for a long time. He would often come over and stay at my house, and we would just do all kinds of stuff. I had a video camera, and we would just do all kinds of funny shit, and I don't know, just entertain ourselves. And I don't know, we were really close for a long time. It kind of dissolved when, we were getting older, and I wasn't into partying and, all that kind of stuff. And he was kind of getting into that kind of thing. So we kind of separated there, and, that's just kind of the way it went. I was friends with a kid named Cameron as well. He lived next to my dad, so I would only see him on the weekends pretty much. And we did a lot of stuff together too. We hung out a lot. We were really, really close. That friendship kind of came to an end when I started dating Amy, and he wasn't the biggest fan of Amy. And so basically at that point I stopped talking to him. That probably was not the most mature response, but I don't know, I was really young and dumb at the time, but I don't know. Things happen the way they do. It's just the way it went down, And then, I think now pretty much what it comes down to is, Dre's my best friend and my brother. So, and you guys all know what's going on with Dre. So, that's really the long and the short answer to that question. Dre is my best friend. And Rachel's my best friend too. Rachel and I are really, really close. Obviously work keeps us separated a lot, but I really can't discount Rachel. Rachel is someone who believed in me when not many other people did, and that's something I am never ever gonna forget. She was there for me when I really had nobody else. So yeah, that's something I'm always gonna keep in my heart. And Dre and I have always been, Dre and I had a falling out a few years ago, and we didn't talk for a few years, but I finally took it upon myself one day, and I was living in Lake George, and spent a lot of time outside during the summer, that one particular summer, and just took it upon myself one day to text Dre and just be like, you know what, it's time to bury the hatchet, and yeah, that's pretty much how that went down. So Dre had kind of tried to bury the hatchet a couple years before that or whatever, but I wasn't interested. And also I was living with my dad, so I was out of contact with everybody, which was an amazing healing process for me, to be honest with you. But so yeah, that's how all that went down. And yeah, you could probably say that Dre and Rachel are my best friends now. So yeah, I guess that answers that question. What is the hardest thing you've ever had to tell your parents as a teenager? Well, I think that question's pretty easy. I think for my mom, the hardest thing was telling her, or really not so much telling her, but trying to convince her to let me drop out of school. It was my mom's dream for me to graduate high school, and of course I didn't make it. At that point, I did eventually get my GED, but you can kind of go back and forth on whether that's the same thing or not, but and I guess the really shitty part about that is that I had just convinced my mom to let me get a PlayStation. She bought me a PlayStation, and it was with the premise that I go to school that year because I had been skipping so much. But when I went to school the next day, the guidance counselor called me into the office and basically told me that I was just wasting everyone's time if I didn't come to school. And I was so far behind that I just wasn't going to catch up. So yeah, I mean, that was pretty much it. And it was a tough conversation to have with my mom. But at that point, I don't think there was really nowhere else for me to go at that point. So yeah, that was a tough conversation to have. And with my dad, I think I really don't want to go too much into detail. I know I don't do that very often, but there was a time when I came down with a viral infection, and I was back and forth between, I want to say urgent care. It wasn't urgent care, but it was it was a medical facility. I don't know, just some kind of medical facility. My dad was bringing me back and forth, and the subject came up that I had sex with my girlfriend, and he did not know that, and he like, I bet you didn't use a condom either, huh? And first of all, you didn't fucking teach me that, so I'm gonna pick up my pen. So F you, Dad. But I lied to him and said that I had, but I hadn't. But I was being careful. Whatever. We'll move on. But anyway, I guess that was I don't know if that was a tough thing to tell him, but I guess I didn't really care. But it was what it was. I can't really think of too many other difficult things I've had to tell my father. I have had conversations with him when I got older that I did talk to him and tell him why. I told him that I understood why he had to leave my mom, even though his methods of doing so were not, were not favorable. But I did get it, and I love my mom to death, and everybody loves my mom, but she could be very, very tough to handle, and I dealt with my own amount of trauma with her, and I can understand to a certain extent why it wasn't working with them, but it is what it is. But it doesn't really answer the question. But it was I can't even say that was a tough conversation. It was something that was just like I wanted to get it out, so I think that made him happy that I said so. But you know, it is what it is. You know, my parents were my parents, and I love them dearly, and you know, and it could have been worse. I always say it could have been worse. There are plenty of kids out there that had way worse parents than I did. So, you know, it kind of came down to a point where I had to kind of teach myself a lot of things. But, you know, I'm happy with the way I turned out. So, you know, no complaints on that front, I guess. I have Netflix scrolling by over here, and there's a little ad for the last podcast on the left, and I think that's very clever. It's very cool. Now it's Squid Game. Squid Game rules. As I was growing up, what career path did you think I'd pursue and why? That is both a difficult and an easy question to answer because I don't think I have an answer for either one of you. I know that Christian was really into like wanting to go in the military when he was younger. And I don't think it's too much of a secret to say I wasn't a fan of that notion. You know, most parents aren't. I don't really know that I really, you know, thought about a career path for either one of you when you were really younger that I really would have thought that you would pursued. And you know, you guys both know the story. As you guys got older, you guys weren't really sure what you were going to do either. And, you know, the program at the school we're at, you know, really saved you both. And we're both we're all so blessed that we came across that program. And it just got you guys started on a path, you know. We've talked about, you know, this path doesn't lead you where you want to go. It can, you know, can turn around and go to a different path, you know. So, you know, I don't know that I have a good answer to that question. I can't really think of a single thing that I would have thought you guys would have done when you got older. Let me see if I can form an image of you guys in my mind as children, and then let me see if like a job comes to mind. I mean, both of you guys were very smart. You know, there was no disagreement on that. Aiden's kind of heading down this path. Now, I could have seen Aiden being an accountant, like looking at him as a kid with his glasses and everything, and he was so smart. And you know, I don't recall math being a major issue for him when he was younger. He could have easily been an accountant, you know. And you can make pretty good money as an accountant. I guess for Christian, going into the military would have been a thing at his age. Well, not at his age, but you know what I mean. He was just into running around and playing and, you know, shooting toy guns and things like that, you know. I can't really think of anything else, you know. I guess that's it. I don't think I really have a better answer than that. What's the most important thing you learned about relationships? Oh boy. The most important thing I learned probably took me almost 40 years to learn. The most important thing, really, I think, is... I was going to say to be fair, which implies that I was never fair in any of my relationships ever, and I don't think that's accurate at all. But, I think what I really mean is, you know, I can use me and Kate as an example. When we lived at the apartment in Bridgewater, I basically had control of the TV all the time. Whether it was movies or TV or, you know, anything like that. And that wasn't really fair. And we did mostly what I wanted all the time. And that's not cool. You really have to learn to, you know, make things 50-50 as much as humanly possible. And that was a tough thing for me to do because I'd never had it that way before, really. Even in all the relationships I'd had, it was always basically what I wanted to do. And, you know, I was basically, you know, for the most part, an only child and spoiled my whole life. And it was really tough for me to get over that hump and to give up that part of myself to, you know, make things more about the other person in that regard. You guys know that I'm always giving myself to the other person in every other regard. But that one was a tough one for me to do. And yeah, it was just tough. But, you know, I think we got there finally, you know. Obviously things are a little bit different these days. We all have our own separate rooms, and, you know, we can do whatever, but and an important thing, and it's so obvious, but it's also not always the easiest thing in the world to do. The most important thing is to listen and to hear what they're saying. And believe me, I know women are the most unsolvable creatures in the entire universe. I know this because 98% of my friends are women, and I love them all dearly, but you can't solve any of them. So the point is, don't even try. Really what you do is you roll with the punches, and you pick your battles, and you just do what you gotta do. And if you really love someone, you can make compromises very easy and give them what they want. I think that's the biggest thing that I learned. And it really goes a long way. But it's also a two-way street. It can't go all the way the other way either. You know, and that's something that, you know, obviously the other person has to work on. But that is definitely the most important thing that I learned. And you know, they talk about the various ways to get to a woman's heart or a man's heart. Laughter is the way to a woman's heart. I'm telling you that right now. I think I can, I'm declaring myself an expert on the matter, and I will tell you that laughter is the way to a woman's heart. Food does not hurt. Women love food, and that's a good thing. Feed them whatever they want. But, you know, food and laughter are the easiest ways to go. So, yeah, I think that's the best advice I can give you on that. All right, let's hit one more and get out of here, shall we? Oh, my fucking bookmark fell out. Oh, well. What do you recommend I try at least once in life? Oh boy, I don't know. I really don't know. It's not a big secret that I've always wanted to skydive. I've always wanted to skydive at least once. Now as I'm getting older, I'm not so sure that I really want to do that at this point. I'd still love it, but you know, I don't know if I really should. I don't know that I have a definitive answer. But I will say this. If you come up with things in your life, like a list or something like that, of things that you want to do in life, things that you want to experience, things that you want to try, then you should make it a point at some point in your life to try and do those things. Life is very short, and I really don't have that many regrets. You know, I don't. You know me. There's not many places I wanted to go. Really, I'm really not a traveler per se, but I do enjoy the places that I've traveled, and I do remember the places that I've traveled. So, you know, it's always a cool thing to get out and go different places and experience different things. But and you know, there are some things on my bucket list, you know, that maybe I'll get to experience one day. But you know, if I don't, it's not going to be a you know, lying on my deathbed going, "Oh, I wish I could have gone to England," kind of thing. It's not going to be one of those things. But yeah, I would say that, you know, if you do find things in your life that you really, really want to do, then at some point, find a way to do them. Find a way to experience them. Because, you know, you only live once. So, it's important to do things like that. So, you know, always good to try new things and do different things. So yeah, I think that's the best advice I can give you on that one. And with that, we're going to bring this episode of Your Father's Story to a close. Leave a like, subscribe, notifications, and all that nonsense. You can go to robertblanchardbooks.com and check out the award-winning Roar of a Dragon series. You can read the first 3 chapters of each book there for free. If you'd like to hear more about them, the Rise of Dragons podcast, wherever you find your favorite podcasts. My Linktree, my Instagram, my Twitter are all Bobby's World 2110. Mondays, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is the Dark Souls Remastered No Estus run. This past Monday, I have ventured into an Orlando, and I am depressed that I can't do anything until I leave. So I am trapped there until I defeat Ornstein and Smaug, and that's going to be a very, very, very long haul. So yeah, I've got that to look forward to. Wednesdays, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is Soulsborne Battles to the Death, where I pick 2 random Soulsborne bosses, and I pit them against each other, and then I do bios, and then I decide who I think would win, and then you leave your opinions in the comments. So, and back in the archives, I have the Elden Ring No Crimson Flask run, Volume 1 Limgrave. I have the Sekiro No Healing Gourd run. I have the Dark Souls 3 No Estus run, and the Dark Souls 3 No Level Up run. So, all that is back there for you to check out. There's 6 other episodes of this for you to check out. Your Father's Story. There's Bobby's World Hunger Games. There's 28 of those and some special episodes, a whole bunch of those. You know, if you want to go back and partake and follow the story of how we became this amazing corporation, find out how Courtney came to be, all that stuff, you can go do so. Wednesdays, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is Bobby's Gaming Lounge, which is my weekly live stream where I just play games and we hang out and talk, and just a chill time and hopefully fun time. So, as you are probably watching this right now, the last live stream was probably last night, and it was Spider-Man Miles Morales. So, go check that out if you are interested. So, yeah, fun times as always here on the channel. I have talked about the fact that I have a lot going on this coming year. I'm going to be even busier than I have been in the past. I have let the news get out that I will be going to the management and training program at work. So it's going to get a lot busier. But Kate has made it clear that she wants me to continue to do this as much as humanly possible. So she very much supports me in everything that I do here, which is amazing. And I really, really appreciate it. And I appreciate you guys. I appreciate the love and support. The likes, the views, the subscribers. I have a whole bunch of new subscribers to shout out when I get a chance. Today I'm really just plugging out the content. Like I recorded another episode of Dark Souls earlier. And I got to do the live stream tonight. And I got all kinds of things that I got to do. So I'm just pushing out content right now as much as humanly possible. So, but thank you guys so very much. The growth on the channel has been fun to watch, and it's been very much appreciated. And it makes grinding myself into the dirt all that more satisfying. So, yeah, I really, really appreciate that. So I hope everyone has an amazing week. Be well, stay safe, and as always, it's Bobby's World, and you're all just living in it. See y'all, Steve alive, y'all. Bye.
Hey, boss.
Yes, Courtney.
Mrs. Anderson called. She wanted to order several copies of your books for family and friends.
Oh, that's amazing. Get some ordered, have them sent over to me, and I will sign them for her. I really appreciate it if you could do that for me.
I didn't know you were an author.
You did. Courtney, you've been with me for like 2 years now, and we've talked about it fairly constantly, and there's an ad at the end of every one of these videos.
Well, that doesn't mean that I listen to everything you tell me. Are the books any good?
Well, readersfavorite.com said that its intensity rivals that of the Game of Thrones series. I know, that's pretty crazy, but that's exactly what it says. It's on the Cry of a Raven review. Go check it out.
Well, that's pretty cool. What are the books about?
It's about a soldier who gets exiled for saving a baby dragon, and later he's killed, and he wakes up 3,000 years later with strange powers, and he's watched over by the very same dragon, and the world has been overrun by evil, and he now must travel back in time to stop the evil that started in his own home country.
Wow, that sounds interesting. How can I get copies of the books?
Well, you can go to robertblanchardbooks.com and order your copies there. You can read the first 3 chapters of each book there for free. And if you want to hear more about them, you can listen to the Rise of Dragons podcast.
You have a podcast too?
You know what, Courtney? You are doing such an amazing job that I think you are due for a raise. How does that sound?
Oh my gosh, that's so awesome. Thank you, boss.
You bet. Too bad the raise is going to be when I raise a water balloon over her head and just... Maybe I'll wait until her mom calls. I think she'll find that pretty funny. Go to robertblanchardbooks.com right now and get your copies of the series that got 3 5-star reviews from readersfavorite.com, 3 Author Shout Recommended Reads Awards, and 2 Literary Titan Silver Awards. You can read the first 3 chapters of each book there for free, read more reviews, short stories, and much more. And if you want to hear more about them, you can listen to the Rise of Dragons podcast wherever you find your favorite podcasts.